On today's episode of Kilts and Culture with USA Kilts, we see if Robert Burns Scotch whiskey can live up to its famous name.
Fair fa, your sonsy whiskey face.
Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I am your host, Rocky. This is my lovely co-host, Mr. Erik.
Yo.
Yes. Technology, gotta love it. Today, special treat. We are trying Robert Burns Scotch whiskey, and I am creeped out by the fact that his little eyeballs, like Kilroy, are sticking out above the top of the label there. Enough about the looks. Let's see how it tastes. Mr. Mack, I'm going to ask you to, do you have any tasting notes? You said something on there about pepper. There's not really any tasting notes on this thing.
Yeah, so the flavor profile that it says, according to the website, black pepper, honey, malt, honeysuckle, and dried fruit.
Okay.
And it's
I've let you influence me, but I can smell the sweetness of the honey and a little like fruitiness to it. Yeah.
I'm actually, I started a little earlier than you guys, but yeah, I am getting that pepperiness and the honey. It's very sweet on the front. It's very sweet, I thought. It's very short, though.
Tastes like haggis. No. It
more smells like haggis. It's more of like an ode to haggis, if you will.
I'm getting the peppery spiciness a little bit, not on the nose, but in tasting it. So I get it. I'm not joking. It kind of tastes like haggis-ish to me. I don't know. I had a weird flashback. Previous life or bad haggis experience. I don't know which.
I think somebody got the idea of saying it's peppery to kind of mask over the fact that there's an alcohol burn.
Yeah, because it says on the site to be malty sweet with a spicy twist on the finish.
I guess I can see that. I'm actually going to water it a little bit more, to be honest.
Yeah, I poured a couple drops in, not too much.
Virtually no smoke.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, not earthy or peaty at all. I paid about $40 for the bottle, so it's not like it's super expensive. It's a reasonably priced Scotch. Any other?
I don't hate it.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. Don't hate it, don't love it. It's fine. To quote one of our kill makers, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
If you guys have had it before, load it in the comments. What do you think of Robert Burns Scotch? Is it? I don't know. Yeah,
I think Kirk said he had it.
Yeah, a few people had said they'd had it in the group. It's very not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but if I'm trying to compare it to other Scotch, I like it in its own right. If I start thinking about how it tastes compared to other Scotches, then it starts to go down in my estimation. You know what I mean? Like if I was comparing it to just drinking any other alcoholic beverage, I'd be like, oh, okay, it's an interesting flavor. I could see cooking with it. It would be good for toddies. It would be good for, for recipes and stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you toddies because there's not a lot of like one-way profile.
There's no, right.
Yeah, Mac, was there anything? And I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. And when you read up on the Scotch, was there anything in there why it is Robert Burns Scotch? Was it like based on a recipe he loved, or they just bought the rights to the name?
I think they just bought the rights to the name. I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah.
It's bottled to honor Scotland's favorite son. That's all it really says. It doesn't really give any more data on that.
So the real question then is who actually is bottling it and where is it being made?
Distilled, matured, and bottled in Scotland, Isle of Arran Distilleries Limited, or Distillers Limited, Arran. So, Arran.
Yeah, the comments were coming in. Go ahead.
You go.
Okay. This is the comments that were getting coming in. Kirk did say it's more of a gimmick in his opinion. So it's kind of, everyone's kind of bleh on it.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. I'm getting a little bit of burn to it now. And see, we lost Erik somehow. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Those
Oompa Loompas got out again.
He's being drug off camera.
They're gonna break into a song and dance and go across the bottom of the screen.
I don't know. Mac, what are your thoughts on it?
It's to me it's like I expected more from it, I guess. I expected a little bit more because of who it's named after and what they're trying to do. I just expected it to be and it's yeah.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, putting on my marketing hat for a second, I think they're trying to sell it, A, obviously capitalize on the legacy of Robert Burns. B, I think they're trying to sell it at that $40 price point specifically for Robert Burns suppers, for St. Andrew's dinners, things like that, where it's like, oh, you're supposed to buy Scotch and have it with this meal. Therefore, I'm going to go to the liquor store. What do I get? Oh, this one. Look, it even has Robert Burns right on the label. Woohoo! So that's where I think that's where I think it's coming from.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's yeah, they're using it to more I don't want to say not overpower the dinner that you may be having, but just to accent it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good like there's no strong flavor profile either way. There's no like crazy strong peat or smoke. There's no crazy there's no real strong flavor profile. It's just very meh. It's all middle of the road of everything. It's damning praise. Where it's I don't know. It's not great. It's not bad.
Since we are drinking Robert Burns whiskey, do you have any plans for Burns night?
Not a ton. My son is 7, so as picky of an eater as he is, I don't think that the heart, liver, lungs of haggis is in his future. But I don't have anything in particular. We'll probably do a little something at my house, nothing big and exciting. We'll, obviously, raise a glass to the immortal memory. What do you have going on, Mac? Anything?
Sleep.
That's, yeah. After like 2 glasses of scotch,
you're going to be there happens.
as well. That's the curse of 44 or 43 or however old I am.
Well,
yes.
The other thing is, since the guys online can see your tartan, what tartan are you wearing?
I have on the Stewart Old Wilson's of Bannockburn colors. This is actually one of my favorite kilts. It's different from a lot of different tartans. Wilson's of Bannockburn was a mill in Scotland in the 1800s. It was probably the biggest mill in Scotland at the time. They were I won't say they started, but they were a major push in weaving clan tartans. And their colors were a little bit different than a lot of the different mills in Scotland, or than the mills are today, I should say. They didn't have modern, ancient, muted, weathered color scheme back then. They just did their color, period. So if a tartan had red in it, it used red. If a tartan had blue in it, it used navy blue. And for the green, if the tartan had green, they didn't use like bottle green, which is what we're used to now for modern colored tartans. And it didn't use like the light blue, light green colors, like pastel-y kind of colors that we're used to for ancients. They just had one color palette. So their green was like this olive drab, kind of army green color that they have here. It's a neat, the way, if you put it in today's context, it's kind of a neat mixture of modern and muted colors together. So it's not one that a lot of people have, but it is one that I really dig. My wife is a Stewart through her family, so I wanted to have a Stewart tartan. I'm not a big fan of Royal Stewart and Stewart hunting, the ones that are everywhere, so common kind of thing. So I picked the Stewart Old, just has something a little bit different. So what tartan do you have on there today, Mr. Mack?
I have House of Edgar's County Down tartan on today. Because it matches very well, not that anybody can see it.
Stand up, give us a twirl, buddy.
Yeah, not in this small space. Yeah, if I twirl, the whole setup's coming down.
Since Erik isn't here, do we have anything coming in from the audience that you and I can answer together? Do a Mac and Rocky episode here.
Erik is still going to be down for a little bit yet until they beat the gremlins out of the room. So it looks like it's us two for right now.
It's you and me, pal. We got this, Mac. We got this.
So I'm heading back up through the comments here as they're coming in.
All right.
All right. So got a question here from Rick Johnson. He has he says, I have a USA Kilts P.C. and I have a USA Kilts Argyll. I have a custom tweed jacket and vest from his tailor. He'd like another jacket. So where should he go? Should he go Sheriffmuir, Montrose? What do you think?
I would say if it's up to me, if you have a Prince Charlie jacket and vest, you have the formal end of the spectrum for the most part covered. Argyll is the middle dressy, nice suit kind of thing. He said he has a converted tweed, I think you said, Mac?
Custom tweed jacket and vest.
Right. If it were me, I would probably start with, because I would start with another tweed in a different color. So if I have a Highland green tweed or a Lovat green tweed, I might do a brown. If I want something a little bit more traditional, I might do a navy blue, like a Lomond blue, or a Lovat blue, something a little bit lighter. Just something different. I might do a gray, just to go completely different. But I would probably do a second tweed jacket and vest, maybe in a slightly different configuration. I might do 3-button front as opposed to 1 button. I might do different cuffs or something like that. I might do a contemporary tweed jacket and vest, like contemporary, like a crail cuff, suit flap pockets, no epaulets, that kind of thing. If you're stuck on really wanting to do something fun, over the top, formal, and you really want to get into something like that, then maybe a Sheriffmuir, maybe a regulation doublet, although it's pretty close to a Prince Charlie. The basic difference between a regulation doublet and a Prince Charlie is the flaps on the bottom of the regulation. Maybe a Montrose. It depends where you want to go. I mean, there's a bunch of different cool looking cuts to kilt jackets for white tie, black tie, day wear, smart day wear kind of thing. So you can go different directions with it. I always go to versatility and to the thing that I'm going to get most usage out of. So in my mind, it's going to be a tweed, maybe a tweed vest with some lapels and do some different kind of fun stuff like that. What would you do, Mac?
Yeah, that's my first thought was doing a different tweed, maybe something with a window pane in it, or like you said, more contemporary, just kind of mixing up that way. That's right where I headed to begin with, because I'm thinking the other ones. It's usage. What am I going to get? I'm spending this money for. What's going to give me the most bang for my buck? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I like your idea with the window pane. I have a few tweed jackets and vests that have window pane. There's also different types of tweeds you can get. You can get, a Donegal tweed, which is kind of little flecks of color in it. You can get a herringbone tweed. You can get a bunch of different types of tweeds that'll give it a different flavor to your outfit. And it takes, I will say this, it takes a certain personality to pull off a window pane tweed, something that's a pattern with a kilt with a pattern. It is very, very traditional. It looks great, but you have to have the certain personality, a strong personality to kind of want to pull it off, because it's a lot of patterns.
Yeah, I mean the other extreme you can go is a tartan jacket and vest.
True. You can do a tartan jacket and vest to match the kilt. Absolutely, that's something you can do as well.
That is a bold statement.
That is absolutely a statement. You are the peacock among the peacocks. You're the king peacock among the peacocks if you wear a tartan jacket and vest with your kilt. I would warn this: when I get tartan jacket and vest to wear with a kilt, I usually get the vest on the bias, so it adds some visual interest. It kind of breaks it up a little bit, and you're not trying to worry about the vertical line running straight down the front of you, straight down the front of the kilt, and all that kind of thing, and being in a perfect right-left symmetrical photo of yourself. Yeah. All right, Mr. Mac, I'm being...
They broke through the lines, but we fought them back. The English will not rule our country this day. My liege, I come to you bearing questions.
This is kind of off-putting. I need more scotch. You have some scotch?
Scott Murray asked us, how do you train personnel to make a quality kilt? Is it a mentor-pupil kind of a thing with repetition, or do you do a formal course going through certain steps? And I thought, since you and Mac are basically holding the fort down here, this is a good topic for you guys to talk about. So I'm going back to the ramparts.
We have a huge budget here at USA Kilts, including weapons. Yes. So Mac, what was his question? How do we bring people, kilt makers, into the business, train them up to be what we want them to be? I'd start with a minor bit of history. When I started the company way back in 2003 with the wife, we didn't have formal kilt training. And we started off, on the low end of the market, making our casual kilts and low end stuff, and priced appropriately, obviously. But we kind of learned as we went along. As kilts came in from Scottish makers, we would kind of see what they were doing, how they were doing it, why they were doing it, if we adjusted a kilt for a customer. We eventually bought The Art of Kilt Making by Barb Tewksbury. Wonderful, wonderful lady. We read through that, kind of got some tips and tricks through that, but we made it our own way. In making anything, a car, a kilt, whatever you're making, there's generally more than one way to skin a cat. So we wanted to make a kilt the way that my engineering type brain wanted to make it, to kind of overbuild it and, overbuild the straps, overbuild the buckles, overbuild the buttonhole on the other side. So we kind of came at it from that angle. We don't have traditional training. We have some traditional tips and tricks that we've learned along the way, things that we've picked up and incorporated into how we make things, or did incorporate. We're pretty solid now. But back in the early days, that's how we did it, was we just kind of folded in new knowledge as we were doing it. I didn't come from a sewing background. I figured out how to sew by myself. My wife came into the business knowing how to sew, and she kind of helped me along. When we brought Mac in, he was our first full-time kilt maker aside from me and Kelly. We had one or two others before then, but nothing like Mac. And when he came in, he came to us with an understanding of garment construction. He's a reenactor. He makes all his own clothes. He sells his own clothes, or he sells clothes that he makes, not his own clothes. He came to us with that. So he just picked it up right away and has kind of become our main kilt maker now that I'm out of production for the most part. He is the production manager. He's the one that's been training people up as they come in. So he knows the way that I want things done, and he does things the same way. And as people come in, they get trained through Mac the way we want them to be trained. In the US, it's not like I can just throw an ad in the Philadelphia Inquirer and say, hey, I need kilt makers, and 50 people beat down my door from the next town over. It's not like it is a trade that is readily practiced and available for me to just hire people, but good God, I wish it was. So people come to us with to be a kilt maker with all kinds of different backgrounds. Some people come with knowledge of sewing. Other people, like Ian, one of our long-standing kilt makers, came to us never having sewn anything before. He just really loved kilts, really loved the culture, and just wanted to be a part of what we were building. So it's a weird grab bag kind of mix of employees that we have and kilt makers that we have who have a very, very varying background on how much knowledge of sewing they have versus, if they've, I don't think any of them really made a kilt before they came to work for us. So Mac, why don't you talk about kind of the training process and how we bring them from noob off the street to full-on kilt maker 10 years down the road.
So when we finally find somebody that comes in, like Rocky said, there isn't a kilt maker factory that's bringing people in for us, although we really wish there would be one.
Well, I don't know. But it would be competition.
That's
then.
True.
So it's a good thing. It's a double-edged sword. It's good that there's not a ton of kilt makers all around for us to cherry pick from. And at the same time, we would want them to learn it our way. So that would actually potentially be a stumbling block. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, definitely. Sorry, Mac. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no. So once we finally get someone in here, like Rocky said, we've had people who have had minimal to all types of experience with sewing. They've made their own garments before. So when they come in, they learn the machines. It's for a week. You just learn the machines, learn the feel of how those machines work, and then we put them onto a particular style, whether it's a casual or semi-trad, and we get them working on that and getting the repetition. And I think Rocky's used the phrase, finding the ruts in the road, getting everyone kind of in that path and staying within those guidelines to put out a product that is to our standards. So in that time frame takes about 3 months till we get someone from in the door to where we need them to be or where we want them to be for quality, speed, for everything. So it's not just a overnight snap.
Good God, I wish it was.
It's a process.
Basically when you come in the door day one as a new kilt maker for us, what you end up doing is you make linings. You sit there and you tear out black cloth to a set width. You iron it, you serge it, and then you sew a straight line for miles. So it is tedious, boring, monotonous work until you've gotten used to the machines, you understand what you're doing, you've used all the different parts in the building. Then we say, okay, the first kilt you're gonna make is for you. If you're gonna screw this up, it's gonna be on your kilt, not a customer kilt. So we start off with them making a kilt for themselves. And they learn how to, we teach them step by step how to do the math, how to put the pleats in, yada, yada, yada. And there's a strong oversight while we're doing that. We don't trust somebody off the street just to make stuff for customers because we do not want mistakes going out in the world. So yes, Mac has a very, very watchful eye. There's an intensive training process over 3 months to basically get you up to the low bar of making kilts on a regular basis for us with less oversight than, day 1, day 2, week 1, week 2. Does that make sense, Mac?
Yeah, that sums it up really well.
Yeah. It takes a long time to get fully up and running, including our cameras. Welcome back, Erik.
Back? What? I've been here the whole time. What are you talking about?
So, exactly. So what do you think
I'm
of
just
the
sitting
Scotch?
here enjoying some Scotch. Sorry?
What do you think of the Scotch?
Fair to middling. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like this might fall into that category of something very generic to give somebody to start with. If you know, and then you say, okay, now you have this as a baseline. Here's one that has this kind of profile. Here's one that has a PD profile. And you kind of, start exploring into the different actual realms of different flavor profiles. Whereas this is kind of like just like, this is what a Scotch sort of tastes like. Just it's
Yes.
really generic. So
Yeah, Scotch brand Scotch.
Kinda. Interestingly,
white
it's not the
label
first one.
Scotch.
It's not the first one that's used his name, by the way. I found this one is Robert Burns, but I think I found another one which is from years ago called Robbie Burns, and I found a picture of a very old vintage, weird-looking bottle with his picture on it and everything. So it's definitely not the first time, nor will it be the last that somebody tries to use Robert Burns as a marketing ploy. This is par for the course,
I'm curious if there's any like copyright on his image through his family or stuff like that, or if it's just it's part of the thing that is Scotland now, the marketing of Scotland. So anyway, Mac, score 1 to 10. Robert Burns Scotch.
3.9.
3.9. Okay. Below average from Mac. Mr. Erik, what's your score?
I'll go like a 4.2, 4.5. Like it's so simple that, I wouldn't like refuse to drink it. It's not like the rocket fuel I've been served at parties sometimes, but it's not like something I'd expected a good whiskey tasting either. You know what I mean?
Fair point.
It's a party. It feels like a party drink. So yeah, 4.5.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll go about the same. I think I'm gonna go 4.4. It's fine. It's very, very average. It's not great. It's not bad. It's not something I would, jump through hoops to go buy, but it's fine. So, yeah, that's about it for Robert Burns Scotch. Indeed.
Ta-da! Oh, Mac went away.
Well,
all right.
I don't know. Did I give it a fair shot? I don't know. I gotta pour more. I gotta give it another shot.
Verifiable results. That's scientific. You need to have verifiable results. So I'll have to have some more too at some point. But it's very sweet. That's the other thing I've just noticed now. It's really sweet on the back. It's just like
it's the honey and the fruit flavor.
So what have you guys been up to lately?
Stalling.
Oh, okay.
Indeed.
Yep.
All right.
By the way, those border reavers who are at the door, I took care of them.
Yes, exactly. Cattle rustlers,
It's sorted.
you will. The McGregors.
It's sorted.
Damn McGregors. All right. Boys and girls, load in your questions. If you haven't already, I promise now we look like we're on track. Mr. Mac, if you would, start collecting people, or don't collect people. Sorry, that's creepy. Collect questions from the people. Mr. Erik, what is our first, second, third question now that we are...
Well, we're on to the second one. I appreciate you and Mac going into the whole deal about how kilt makers start here. I thought that was a pretty good summation. It's I've always observed you guys are basically looking for attention to detail first, and a kind of you've always said a mechanical thinking mind.
Yes.
Like an engineer's mind is the best way to start. And I thought, yeah, but that's there's a certain knack that people have if they make it. I'll say that from what I've seen.
We can the mentality. One more thing I'll point out in that, even though we're past the segment, we're always looking for. We're always looking for kilt makers. If you want to be a kilt maker and you live near us, please, for the love of God, send us your resume. Now, the one thing, what we look for in a kilt maker is eye for detail. We can teach anybody how to sew. I can't teach people how to see details. That's either innate or it's not. So that's the thing that we're actually looking for is, can the person see the details, see the mistakes that they're making, see the things that they're doing right, and can they balance that versus can they sew? I can teach anybody to sew. Sorry, my random rant.
I have to admit, if somebody who's colorblind applied for the job, that might be a problem too. Sorry.
Hey, if they can do it, they can do it. But they would definitely have a more difficult time. I mean, where like Blackwatch, where you have black lines in a navy field, yeah, it's going to be more difficult for you to see it than it would for someone who can see and differentiate between black and navy. So yeah, it depends on which colors you're blind to, I guess. I'm not up on, understanding color blindness fully, but yeah, it would definitely be a challenge.
That's a tangent. So, but since we're talking about the company, I'm just going to do another one that's a little company focused, if you don't mind. Daryl Bullis was asking us if there's any update on the new USA Kilts website web store.
I wish there was more of an update than there is. Yeah, we're going to be coming out with a new website. I'm hoping, knocking on wood as I say this, hoping by March. Basically, we had some setbacks as far as doing photography and that kind of stuff. And we have some setbacks on the HTML for our package pages and a few other things. Building a website like we have, and I'm not trying to, pat myself on the back here, but it's a very, very, very in-depth thing. I mean, it's not a simple out-of-the-box kind of once and done, close enough website. I mean, we try to do a lot of custom stuff, a lot of customization, a lot of moving parts. So to have everything just so and ready to go takes a lot longer and a lot more money than I want it to take. But that being said, yes, we are on track to have a new website. It'll be similar to the existing site, just updated and on a newer platform for bugs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, hopefully end of March-ish is, I'm guessing, what the time frame will be. Again, knocking on wood.
Yeah, I think we often say that there's a lot of moving parts with Highland wear and choosing your kilt and everything. So the challenge that we've always had is making an interface on a website simple enough to follow that you can get all the parameters that you need and also the parameters you want, like customizations, into it smoothly. And that means that a lot more work on the back end has had to been done by the people who do the development for us to make it so you can actually buy a kilt through one web page and choose the tartan, get the measurements in, get the the pleating preference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be, the goal is to make it even more filterable, so you can easily hone in on the kind of look you want and the accessories you want and put it all together with as close to one click as possible, which will never happen. But the point is to make it as pleasant as possible, because it can get daunting. I mean, it's a lot to figure out if you've never done it before, especially. But that's also why no matter what the website is like, we always have people standing by on the phones and everything. So shout out to Lucas and his crew, basically.
I came from a web background in my previous life, so to speak. So one thing that is always stuck out in my mind, I worked for customer service for a web company. So one thing that's always stuck out in my mind is customer service and user experience, making sure that the user has a good experience, easy to follow. You're not, searching around for things. It's not crazy. It's not broken. It's a good, easy user experience. That is what we are after. So yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit more money. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time, but I promise it will be worth it. Check us out.
All right, should I do one or should Mac do one?
Let's go to Mac.
Okay.
Mr. Mac, why don't you regale us and add yourself to the stream?
Oh no.
And ask us another question.
Did the Border Reavers get him too? No? Okay.
They're knocking down these gates now. Erik, just to touch on your point about the color blindness, we have had 2 kilt makers who were
Really?
colorblind.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had 2. Blackwatch is very tough for them to see, and Buchanan was in PV was another one that they were having a hard time with the green line and the blue.
So you just have to figure out a way to differentiate, like by the brightness or the thread count or something. I mean,
we get super high. What are the lights called, Mac? The German name for the lights?
The Uberlight.
The Uberlight. Yes, the Umlaut. The Uberlight, which is like a super focused LED light right on the fabric. So we get real nice, high quality, very, very, very bright lights to try to highlight those differences.
Cool.
All right. So we have Sam asking, just wondering, any suggestions on how to polish ghillie brogues? Never polished shoes with embroidery on them before. Any ideas and techniques?
I'm assuming by embroidery he means embellishment.
The broguing.
Yeah. No different than polishing wingtips. So, however you would normally polish wingtips, I would do it effectively the same way. Using shoe polish and a cloth, wiping it on, letting it sit for a little bit, then using a good brush and a firm, stiff brush, and really getting in there, just getting into the cracks is the biggest tip in polishing, is making sure that you're in the cracks. You get the polish into the cracks and into the broguing and the little embellishments, and then when you're brushing it off, you're getting in there with it. I'd say make sure you're wearing old clothes because you may be flicking little bits of polish all over the place. Erik, any other tips for polishing?
Yeah, I would do it on the back porch or someplace where your wife is not going to be upset when you do make that mess. Yeah, I think if anything, when you're actually polishing, the only risk you'd have is getting excess wax or whatever built up in the holes. But I've never had that problem. I think the main thing is getting it clean first. Choosing a good shoe soap option, whichever that might be for you. I used to use a saddle soap back in the old days. Basically, and making sure you get in there. Even I had like a soft bristle toothbrush, like an old used toothbrush. I use that to just kind of swirl around in the broguing and everything, and around the stitching and everything, just to get the dirt out first. That's the primary goal. And then after that, the polish should not be a problem. Has never been for me.
Neatsfoot oil?
What?
Did you ever use Neatsfoot oil, Erik?
No.
Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Neatsfoot oil will only allow it to take as much as it needs. So it won't allow it to oversaturate. So if I'm remembering Neatsfoot correctly, because I remember we used that on our boots for World War I, World War II as well.
I want to check that out. That sounds like a good tip. Thank you.
Would Neatsfoot oil make it too floppy or too supple over time?
No, it never softened. It never softened it. It just allowed just the amount to saturate into.
Okay.
Now you don't want to over. Obviously, you don't want to over
soak them in Neatsfoot oil.
Yeah, because that will deteriorate them, just like you would with the saddle soap. You don't want to over saddle soap it.
Right.
Because I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's the Neatsfoot oil first, then the saddle soap. It doesn't allow the saddle soap to oversaturate, then the polish.
Yeah, I think, and even before that, do some dry brushing. Like I was saying, getting the particulate matter off the shoe first. But that sounds like a really good tip. I'd like to try that. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about them. I don't think my shoes have ever gotten dirty enough to need a full-on dry brushing, but that's a very good point. If you have any little mud bits or any little particulates in the broguing, in the holes, that kind of thing. Yeah, I like the dry brushing thing. I didn't think about that. Or using an old toothbrush to kind of, or your wife's new toothbrush, I don't know, to kind of get the polish into the holes. I didn't think about that before.
Yeah, it's just kind of take your time. It really depends on how much you're abusing the shoes. Like I'm wearing these at festivals, going around in the grass and everything. So probably not everybody has that problem. But yeah, now if you're going to be really old school, you should be mixing up some lard with some charcoal black from the fireplace. Then you make some true boot black. Then it's go 150-year technology. Go back to the 1840s and do it that way. No.
Have at it.
Nah, that's all right. That's all right.
I'm fresh out of lard. Sorry.
I got lard. You know what's hard to find though is suet. You can't get suet in this country, which is pissing me off because I'm trying to make some boiled puddings, and you can't buy suet
Really?
in this country. Yeah. Now, there's a difference between the suet you use in a bird feeder and suet you eat. Okay, that's... Yeah, bird suet is not the same thing. So...
Okay, fine. I was gonna say we used to have suet for the what's it called, woodpeckers out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not the same stuff at all. But
All
anyway,
right,
that's a
fine.
tangent. So no, I like that. I'm really grateful to Mac for that tip. I want to try that next time.
Who knew? You come to Kilts and Culture to learn about bird seed and suet.
Yeah,
Indeed.
well, you know, I'm sitting here drinking water out of my pseudo-colonial era tankard mug here, so.
I will say the second Scotch is a little bit better than the first.
I bet the third one's going to be even
be
better.
Spectacular.
Third one's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Who's up next?
I'm going to go with Daniel McCullough. Asked us, why is the kilt belt and buckle put on in the opposite direction compared to American jeans and buckles that guys normally wear with their pants? In other words, right to left instead of left to right. You know, it's a simple difference, but it does kind of throw people at first. And occasionally you'll have the person who puts on their kilt belt for the first time, and the design on the buckle winds up being upside down because they're clipping it the way they're used to clipping a regular buckle. So why is that? Is there a reason for that?
Yes, no, and kind of. Let me explain. There is no standard, is the bottom line. In kilt belt production, manufacturing, whatever, there is no standard of it's put on this way or it's put on this way. They're done both ways. The companies that make the belts and or make the buckles do them both directions. If your belt has a pattern on it, and it is a right side up, wrong side up type pattern, like there's a Masonic emblem or a Maltese cross or something on, or a thistle on your belt, it might be upside down compared to your buckle if it's not made by the same company. It's a weird thing, it's a weird artifact of the Highlandware industry, is that there is no standard for whether you attach your belt clockwise or counterclockwise. We have belts and buckles from different manufacturers, and they attach differently depending on the manufacturer. One thing you'll notice on our website is that we don't carry belts that have a correct side up and a wrong side up. The reason is our buckles go both ways. So it's one of those things where it's an artifact. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no reason for it. It just exists. There's never been a standardization of right or left facing belt and buckle. So I don't know where to go from here. It's one of those where it's like either you can get a belt that faces a single direction, but then you have to make sure you have the corresponding buckle going the same way. We've had people call us and say our buckle made their belt go upside down, or it's upside down compared to their buckle, or whatever, or they have our buckle and their belt that they got from somebody else is now upside down. Unfortunately, there is no standard. Is it good? No. I wish there was a standard. I wish everybody wrapped around the same way that you do it in the US. It's not the standard. The UK, they drive on the wrong side of the road. They zipper their jackets backwards. They're all kinds of crazy over there. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit of a culture difference and or just a non-standard.
And do you know if that at some point it became standardized to have the closure for a kilt itself on the right-hand side? I was wondering if you or Mac would have any thoughts on that, because I don't. It's just visually, I know the closure has always been on the right, but I'd have to check a whole lot of sources to see if I'm wrong. Like it wasn't as standardized until recently, but do you think that's always been a thing?
I think it has, and the reason I say that, in the sewing process, a kilt is easiest sewn on a right-hand sewing machine. So as I'm facing it, the arm of the sewing machine goes this way, and the needle is here, and there's a smaller circle of area underneath the arm of the machine here and a huge amount off to this side. So in sewing a kilt, it's easier for the bulk of the fabric to go off to the left. Therefore, it starts with the apron on that side and you keep going across the pleats, so that you end up with the pleats on the right-hand side and the buckles on this side. Now, that doesn't explain pre-sewing machines. I guess that would be more right-handed sewers versus left-handed sewers. You can get a left-handed sewing machine, but they are very, very, very few and far between. So I'm not sure, but it's kind of, that's just how it's always been for that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
You could do it, but you'd have to sew upside down. Women's kilted skirts, for instance, some of them go, closure right, some of them go closure left. And those, if somebody specifies they have to have closure left, we have to sew it and kind of like bulk the fabric up underneath that arm inside the machine, or sew it upside down, and it's never fun. So, nope. Closure in the right, period, done.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I think it's Mac's turn.
Yes, Mr. Mac, next question.
Before we get to the next question, we have to do our
Kilt Ambassador this time is James Agnew. He is the regent for the Maryland chapter of the Clan Douglas Scottish Society. And what that means is that James has spent a lot of time in tents. He basically shows up at games and festivals and represents the clan to anybody who's interested in learning about their heritage or getting involved with the clan. And basically, he is also in charge of the clan activities in his region in general, like setting up the website, working on a quarterly newsletter they put out. But the bulk of the stuff he does as outreach is at events. And that was what we talked about. Basically, you'll go to a festival, you'll go to a Highland Games, and you'll see the tents of all the various clans. And some of them stand out. In fact, James's tent has won an award twice at the Maryland Highland Games, basically best clan tent award. And the way he does that, I thought, was really interesting. Basically, he has all the traditional stuff you'd expect to see at a clan tent, like books and maps and artwork, and he's got the heraldry of the clan and all this kind of stuff. Another thing he has is the flag of Galicia, because as it happens, his mom is actually from Galicia, and so he's got a little extra pan-Celtic heritage going on there. And he also puts up a lot of electronic tools. He uses a laptop, which is run off of a solar battery, so that he can basically have access to resources for people to come and visit the tent. If they need to do name searches and stuff, he can help them out. And he runs a video that his son made on the laptop, because he's found that younger people tend to want something more interactive and visual, as opposed to sitting and pouring through books and there's a picture of a castle, there's a name list. They want to see something. So he and I'm assuming his son together came up with the idea of producing this video. And he's trying to draw in younger people. An interesting point along those lines is the fact that younger in this context means like in their 30s. It's harder to get people who are younger interested in getting into the clan society stuff. But I think he's doing a great job doing so. Another electronic thing he sets up is a webcam, which shows the tent and what's in front of the tent, so he can actually live stream his activities to the internet in general. That's awesome. That's basically bringing it into the 21st century. One of James's main points of satisfaction is actually bringing a smile to someone's face when they find that connection and feel like they've kind of come home, he said. And that's a great feeling for any of these guys. They're all volunteers. And it's actually a lot of work to set up these tents. Basically, set up and break down, especially in bad weather conditions, can be a challenge. And you're out there all day. It can be kind of an ordeal, depending on what the weather is like and what the crowds are like. Be very courteous to the people who are doing it. James said the only thing that's a downside sometimes when you're doing this work is that people will come up to you and they will complain about why is their clan not represented at the games. And then he or whomever is the volunteer manning given clan tent has to explain that every group has their own capacities, has their own strengths and times and volunteers, and do their own thing. So you cannot expect them to be there or for him to have an answer as to why they're not there. It's basically, and that can be frustrating, is basically you don't want to give people a negative feeling, but you have to be honest with them and say, look, if your clan didn't set up a tent, you probably need to talk to somebody who's involved with the clan and maybe get involved to help out. It's not every clan is going to be able to do everything all the time. These are volunteer organizations, and they need all the help they can get. The other thing to bear in mind is that just because someone is volunteering at a clan tent doesn't mean that they're going to know everything about your personal family history. So be very courteous in that respect. And if the guy who's volunteering at the tent has to say, sorry, I don't know, you're going to have to keep looking, don't take offense to that. It's a lot of information, and there's only so much that an individual can do, especially if it turns out that you're not a member of the clan for the person you're talking to. James was saying that sometimes people will come up and they'll want information on, Mitchel or something like that, and or Clan Gun. Well, this is the Clan Douglas tent. I don't know anything about, I don't know anything about Clan Gun. So be aware that we're all volunteers, and you're not going to get the perfect answer from just the first very impressive looking person you talk to. His final comment to me was the fact that he wants to reach the younger people because they are the future of the clan, and they're also the future of keeping the games themselves going. So if you know your clan, if you know the clan society, get involved, get out there, consider spending some time at a tent at an event, or even working virtually online. Try and get involved. That was the main lesson I learned from talking to him. So that's our ambassador for this session, and I'm going to say cheers and sláinte, James. Great job, great work. Keep it up.
Absolutely. No, it's very, very underappreciated what the clan societies do and what they do at the events. They're all volunteers. They're all there for the passion, for just loving what they do. So I hope that they are respected and treated well for being there, because it's all volunteer stuff. I mean, they're not paid. They're spending their time to educate the public on what they know. And if they don't, just like you and me, if we don't know something, we're going to say we don't know. Right. I'm assuming they're going to be the same way. And it's,
Yeah, and I think the other thing is the materials involved. I mean, like I mentioned, you and I know this from working, festivals, that, setup and breakdown can be, a fair amount of work. And sometimes, is it your personal collection of clan regalia or books or anything that you're bringing out into the rain, and the mud, and risking your own personal possessions for the sake of this thing? It's a big amount of dedication is involved. I'll say that. It takes a certain amount of dedication.
Did you have to haul it in on a cart? Did you have to haul it in on a cart over a half-mile trek from your car all the way over to the to the side of the clan tent? Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Now, it's the clans are at the games. The clans are, I will say, underappreciated as a value add to the games, where people can go there to get their own family history or learn a little bit more. And these are volunteers. These are people with just a passion for this stuff, and they need to be celebrated and thanked for their time and for their effort, because they're, as I said, they're not paid. It's a fun thing to do for them. And if you don't see your clan at the games, then step up and look into your clan and say, hey, Clan Farquharson, Clan Ferguson, or Clan Fraser, or whatever. Why are you not at this game? And they're going to say, we don't have anyone in that area. Do you want to do it? And the answer is yes. Yes, I will. You'll get into the games for free. You get to have a little area to put your stuff. You get to have, bring a backpack with some sandwiches and some beer, kind of hide that a little bit. But you get to have that stuff on festival grounds. You don't have to pay for it. And you get to talk to a bunch of people. And you're supporting the culture, supporting the heritage. You're pushing it forward. You're getting the kids involved. It's an important thing to keep going. Absolutely.
Yeah. I say, don't expect them to have godlike knowledge, but conversely, they want to talk to you. I mean, you can make these guys' day by going up and even just saying, you know what, this looks awesome. I'm so happy to see you here. Even if it's not your clan, we're all in this together at some point. So, yeah.
Absolutely. They are enthusiastic amateurs to, quasi-historians. They're not... They are not Harvard professors who have studied the history of the clan for hundreds of years. They are people with a passion for this stuff who want to share that passion, want to share that knowledge with anyone they meet. And this is a cool place to do it, where they're not bothering people in bars like, hey, you have a freezer kilt on. Let me tell you all about the history of your clan. So it's the appropriate context for that thing, and it's a way to pass on the knowledge, pass on the passion to a whole different group of people.
And I'm going to,
absolutely.
I didn't get their names, but I will ostensibly offer a toast to James' son and daughter. You know, I think it's awesome that they are also involved and keen about doing this stuff with him. And by the way, he and his daughter both speak Spanish, so when they do get somebody who's Galician and comes up and notices the flag, they'll talk to him. So, you know, that's cool too. Yeah, nice pan-Celtic element there.
As we said like multiple times, it is all about getting the kids involved. If you don't have the kids involved, the next generation, the younger people, whether it's they're excited because their dad's wearing the kilt and they want to wear the kilt at age 5, or it's their mid-20s and they're starting to think about their family heritage or whatever, you need the next generation involved to keep it going forward, to keep pushing it forward, to keep everyone interested and to make it continue to be a thing.
Yep.
If you skip 2 generations, it's gone.
It's gone. It's true.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Mack, regale us with the next question. Pretty please.
All right, so we have Sandra asking, what is the top destination within the U.S. for festivals, gatherings, and events? And what do we look forward to going to next?
Now
when we can, COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
We're spoiled. We're kind of an exception in a way, but I'll let you answer, Rocky.
Top destination in the U.S. is actually a kind of a small, odd one. It's this tiny little town in the middle of Pennsylvania, like right outside Philadelphia, Spring City, PA. It's the mecca for kilt wearers countrywide, USA Kilts.
I don't think you can give that answer honestly until we host our own games on premises. And then your answer might qualify for what she's asking.
That's true. That's true. Well,
yeah.
we throwing the garbage in the bin, does that count as kind of a sheaf toss? No.
Sure, why not?
The biggest games, Celtic Classic is one that we actually attend. That's a huge games. There's some out in Wisconsin, I believe. That's another really big one. Waukesha, Wisconsin, Highland Games. There's that one. There's Dublin, Ohio. It's a few weeks after Dublin. There's a lot of different games across the U.S. So some of them are Irish festivals, and then they kind of have a little Scottish slant to it. Others are Celtic festivals, which incorporate both or all of the Isles and all of the Celtic nations kind of thing. So it's differing degrees, but my personal favorite is Celtic Classic. As for the big ones, you're going to run into small ones as well. You run into Celtic weekends, little tiny Celtic festivals that are a couple thousand people to 10,000 people, but it's still fun because it's more concentrated and it's more personal, and you can maybe speak to some of the band members and that kind of thing. So it depends on what kind of experience you want. Or do you want professional level games, or do you want amateur levels? Do you as an individual maybe want to be involved in the games? Do you want to take your chance at the caber toss and see if you can do it and have it like bare bones amateur, anybody can enter, versus just professional Highland athletes? So there's different games for different reasons and different levels of fun and interaction.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for going to a big one for the spectacle, but there's also something to be said for going to a small local one so you can connect with people. I think that goes with any kind of focused activity, frankly, whether it's like a Highland Games or a music festival or a historical event or whatever. You kind of want the variety. For the big ones, I agree. I mean, we are spoiled that Celtic Classic is right in our backyard. It is a fantastic experience, and I highly recommend it if you can make it out here. I understand there's a big one in Texas, and there's also another one out by Los Angeles, I think, which are big, but I can't speak from experience because I haven't been to them. We do have a lot of people who enjoy Grandfather Mountain quite a bit. My understanding is it's not actually one of the biggest in the country, but it's also it's got a great reputation as being a good time, and the venue itself is beautiful. So that's another good one to consider.
Another big one is Loon Mountain up in New Hampshire. I believe it's New Hampshire. Loon Mountain, Grandfather Mountain, a lot of mountains. But yeah,
Go figure.
Grandfather Mountain, I think it's from what I've never been there. From what I understand, it's a weekend and people kind of camp there, and it's like up the mountain. And same kind of thing with Loon Mountain. It's a fun. You can make a weekend of it just from the camping aspect, let alone the Celtic aspect.
And I think that's if you can stay on or near the venue of a games, it becomes more of a full immersion experience, and your chances for being able to interact with people and make new friends goes up a lot. So I think there's a lot to be said for that too, as opposed to like going and then staying at a hotel miles down the road, and it's just not the same experience.
Yeah, and I would also say that it also adds to the, especially if you are a hiker, outdoorsman, outdoorswoman, whatever type, it adds to the experience of being able to camp with the family and do things outdoor. It's the immersion thing, like you said, and do a lot more with it. It's crystallizing those memories even more when you're fully into it versus just traveling there for a day trip and going away, versus going there for a day trip, staying through the evening, watching the evening concert, going back to the campfire, maybe having a ghillie somewhere near you, drinking a few beers, burning things, roasting marshmallows, whatever, and doing the cookout. So yeah, you're going next level, as it were.
All right, Willie Hyber. This is going to take me a second to read through this, so bear with me. Hypothetically, if one were to create a tartan design, a new design for, say, an Irish clan or an Irish family name that has never had a tartan before, how could the designer encourage the marketing of such a design to the big five kilt makers or to the mills? And could the designer actually encourage the manufacture of the design? Can a designer of a tartan get royalties as the fruits of their labor and intellectual property? Can designers make any money from their tartan designs? So I think what he's hinting at, not so subtly, is that he'd like to design a tartan and make some money off it, like become a tartan artiste or something like that. So is that something you can do? Do you actually earn royalties off a tartan?
Sure. Think of it in these terms. You need a broad marketability of the tartan, or you need some kind of marketing engine behind it to push it forward. So if it's a single Irish name, we did a tartan for, what Irish name was it? I actually designed a tartan for a guy. Darn it, I forget. Anyway, and it was a reasonably big Irish name, and the guy was some muckety-muck with the name who had me design it. And even that didn't really catch on. So it was one of those where it's like none of the mills wanted to stock it, and the society, the name society didn't want to stock support it or anything like that. So the Irish name tartans are difficult to kind of catch on, as far as I've found. There are other your easier path to tartan success. Tartan fortune is a universal tartan with broad appeal. Now,
right.
We've done the American Heritage, we've done Firefighter Memorial, we've done law enforcement, that kind of thing. We've also done Irish American, German American, we've done a few other tartans, some of which we've allowed the mills or a mill to stock support, and then we get a royalty from them. So in the instance of German Heritage, we get USA Kilts gets 2 pounds per meter sold. So we get, for an 8-yard kilt, we get 4 pounds, which is about $6, $7, somewhere in there. So it's not a lot of money, but it's something. Yeah. Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
Retirement, here I come. So it's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of uber successful tartans. The one exception I would probably give would be the Isle of Skye tartan. Rosemary Samois from Australia was the one who designed the Isle of Skye tartan. 2 different mills pay her royalties as well as a copyright fee or something. They pay her money to be able to carry it, and then they pay her royalty on every meter sold. So that is one of the very, very, very few tartans that are commercially successful from an individual designer outside of the mills. Talking the mill into stock supporting your tartan is an issue in itself, and then getting it out there and having the mill market it and or you market it to be able to promote it to the masses and have them buy it and have it be good enough for them to buy it and make money off of it. It's not something that's done a whole lot. Tartan is more a labor of love and something that represents the culture. If you're in it to make millions, you're in the wrong business. You're in it for the culture. You're in it to support to push the ball forward. You're in it to support Scotland. You're in it to make this tradition exist, at least through your generation and on to the next. You're not in it to make $1 million.
Right. Yeah, see, I'm going to become a tartan squatter, kind of like you have domain squatters. I'm just going to design a whole bunch of tartans, and when someone decides it's the awesome tartan they want for their new, brand of dog food, then I'm going to get it. I'm going to win.
Now, there are a couple people who that's their, I'll use my air quotes because I don't know them well enough, full-time job is designing tartans. I remember one guy
But they're attached to mills usually, right?
No. Well, yes. There are mills have their own in-house designers. There are other people who their job, or they want their job to be designing tartans, whether that's for individuals. John and Jane Smith want to get married, and you want to have a tartan, tartan designed for your wedding. You have no idea how to design a tartan, so you go to, insert person X here, and he designs a tartan for you. That is fine. The chair, I forget what his official title was, the grand poobah of the Scottish Tartans Authority, Brian Wilton, wonderful, wonderful human. He since retired from the head of the Tartan Authority, and I think his website is the Tartan Artisan or something like that, where he designs tartans for individuals or for organizations and takes money to design them and then sells the design to the organization. That's different from making a royalty on the design. He's being paid for his design ability, not the tartan he produces.
But that's a bespoke thing. Like he's doing it per client. It's like commissioning
Correct.
a painting in a sense, commissioning a piece of artwork. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
We do the same kind of thing, where if we have a tartan designer on our website, it's a toy, where we allow anybody of any means of whatever you want to do, go to our website, design your own tartan, have fun with it, do whatever you want to do. If you want to design a tartan specifically for yourself, for your organization, whatever, and you need help, you can pay us and we can help you design something, bring it forth, bring it to the Scottish Tartans Authority, get it registered, get it to where you want it if you're having trouble. But that's a process that a lot of different people, a few different people, I should say, have in assisting people to design tartans, not necessarily coming with a finished tartan, trying to make money on it and throwing it out there and, hope people buy it kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do it for the love of tartan. You don't do it because you're going to be a millionaire off making pretty designs. Believe me, I've tried. All right, next question, Mr. Mac. What do we got?
All right, I think this is an interesting one. I don't know if we've talked about it before on here briefly, but Donald is asking, what is the biggest mistake a first-time kilt buyer makes?
Biggest mistake a first-time buyer makes?
First-time buyer. If we're going to go with kilts, I would say the biggest mistake is not measuring properly, or going off of your pant size, or not measuring the length correctly. and I'm saying that specifically because that is the biggest mistake, because some of those are not correctable. Biggest as in dollar amount. If you are 6'4" and you get a 19-inch length, and we call you and say, "Hey, are you sure? Yeah, please double check that. We can't stretch it and make it longer. You know, it's going to be a mini kilt." That's the biggest mistake people make. In line with that, I would say measuring from the pants waist, not the true waist. So if you are, again, let's say you're 6 foot tall, your length at the true waist above your belly button should be 24. If you're wearing it like you wear your jeans, it might be 21, 22, somewhere in there. So the biggest mistake is people insisting that they want to wear their kilt like they wear their pants, not like a proper kilt's made. Because, again, you can't stretch it, you can't make it longer. Erik, what would you say the biggest mistake?
That's it. That's basically it. If you want to go into like a style standpoint, what the biggest mistake would be, not sure. Maybe I think the biggest mistake or the biggest problem new people might have would be sticker shock. Would be thinking you have to get all the stuff at once and create the perfect outfit from right out of the gate the very first time. That's probably a big impediment to people. I don't think it's so much a mistake as it is an unfortunate thing that happens. People start looking at all the options and they think, okay, well, if I'm going to do it right, I've got to have this and this and this and this. Oh crap, that's a lot of money. So I think but there's an easy answer to that, which is basically you just got to remember this is the eating peanuts thing. You get the kilt and you get the sporran and you maybe get a belt and you just build from there over months and years and decades and just enjoy the journey. So don't let the cost of looking an entire outfit together deter you from getting into it. I think that's the one thing I usually recommend new guys.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's like we say in the store, it's, spend the money on the kilt itself. Whatever, don't mortgage your house to be able to buy a kilt, but buy the nicest kilt you can afford, because that is the basis for the outfit. And from there, you build. You can replace a cheap sporran with a better sporran later on. You can replace, cheaper kilt hose with nicer kilt hose. You can get a nicer belt or a better buckle, or you can, move your way up the ladder. But the kilt is the basis for the outfit, so make sure you invest the time to measure properly and invest as much money as you can in the kilt itself and kind of grow your entire outfit from there.
Absolutely. And I'd say, and it's not so much a mistake as it's just good advice. Keep it simple. Don't go for the dress sporran right away. Get stuff that is simple and serviceable and not too loud in the design. So that you can basically, feel comfortable in it and not like going out in a kilt for the first time can be daunting for some guys. And the more outlandish, the more brazen the outfit is. I mean, some people would feed off of that. They're just like, here I go, but a lot of people just like, yeah, but keeping it simple and down to earth and kind of elegant simplicity will make it a lot easier for you to just get comfortable wearing the kilt as you go. You know what I mean? So don't go for the fancy dress sporran. Don't go for the big giant blue saltire buckle. Just keep it subtle-ish. Yeah.
The other thing I would say, the two other, or one big one is, mistakes that first-time kilt wearers made. I'll give you a rapid fire. Here we go.
Okay.
Pleats go in the back. Make sure you have your pleats in the back. Do not put the pleats in the front. For whatever reason, some people, when they put it on for the first time, if they haven't really paid attention, put the pleats in the front. Number two, if you're getting an 8-yard kilt or a kilt that has the steeking in, all the white line of stitching across the back of the pleats, those are meant to be taken out so the pleats can actually swing free. That's a big one. The other one that it's not really a mistake. It's more of a personal preference. And don't write me in the comments. And if you do, send your emails to Lucas. I'm not a big fan of cream colored kilt hose. I would say if I could travel back in time until 2003, 2004, Rocky anything, it's, hey, dude, charcoal hose or, a colored hose that tone well with the kilt, do that. Don't do cream hose. That's not really a mistake, but it's kind of, it smacks of rental. It smacks of less expensive. So colored hose don't really cost anything more, that much more than white hose or cream hose. So in my estimation, colored hose are a slightly better way to go. And it gives an air of what you're doing more than the cream hose.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, if we're going to go down that road. That's that. If we're going to get into that kind of basic advice, the next one I would say would be make sure you do the proper measurement for the distance between your sporran and your buckle. A lot of the guys, when they're starting out, I see the sporrans hanging down way too low. Part of that is it could be that they got a chain that was not the right size, or they didn't know how to adjust the chain, or you get the perspective error looking at the mirror and you're not standing far enough away from the mirror and it looks okay in here in my bedroom. I think I'm all right. Make sure you have a solid measurement. I use the 3-finger method, and just make sure that sporran is exactly right distance from your buckle. You'll look a lot sharper that way, and it just looks like you got dialed in. So that's another mistake to avoid. Don't put the kilt pin through both layers of the kilt. It only goes through the apron. That's a classic. Don't pin yourself into your kilt.
One more, underappreciated, very, very, very important.
Okay.
Do not jump with a heavy sporran.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You will make that mistake.
Or run.
Exactly. Yes, or run. Yes, you slide it off to the side. You will make that mistake exactly one time as a male. Enough said.
Yep. Here you go.
Mr. Erik, next question, pretty please.
Okay. Scott Rogers basically said, I'd love to hear more specifics about why the guys dislike the design of the Bi-Centennial Tartan. I personally have always thought that it was an attractive design, though I don't think I've ever seen it actually in use. Does it not pleat well, or what is it about the design that makes it unattractive in the eyes of a kilt professional? So I think we can easily dovetail this into our opinions about what makes a nice tartan design versus a bad tartan design, which I think, it's good to discuss.
In previous episodes, we've talked about the Bi-Centennial Tartan, which you will see here. Well, I can't get my finger on it.
There we go.
There.
Right.
There we go. Yes. This is a lot more difficult than it looks, people.
I know, because everything's mirror image. Yeah.
I know. Okay. It's there. So anyway, the Bi-Centennial Tartan it's not bad. It was made in 1975. It was made for the Bicentennial, for the American Bicentennial. It was very, very 1970s looking, in my opinion. There's the reason I don't like it as a kilt maker. Or as tartan designer, so to speak. It's the multiple skinny white lines all right next to each other. That kind of throws me off to a degree. The other thing that is difficult is when you have a tartan that is majority blue and majority red. The way tartan works is it's a mixture of those colors. So you end up with any tartan that has red and blue as the main two colors will look purple to the untrained eye as you stand back a little bit. So it's tricky to get right. Purple tartans can be great. I mean, look at Isle of Skye. It's a very beautiful purple, but it is used on purpose and how the purple interplays with the other colors, not how red and blue mix to make purple. So those are the two reasons why it's lower on my list. I would not say the Bicentennial Tartan is the tartan I hate the most. It's not even my top, or my low 3 for tartans that I dislike. But it is definitely lower on the list for those reasons. There's too many white stripes close together, and where the red and the blue cross, you get a weird purple tint without it wanting to be purple. Erik?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, you also get the combination you get that turns pink is it basically just red and white, or are there other colors that turn pink?
No, red and white.
Yeah, red and white you get pink. And we have there's a couple of tartans that do that. I think it's funny because the image that we just put up just now to show you the tartan doesn't look as bad as this thing looks once it's pleated up. You know, it's still my personal taste would be there's a little too much white in it. I agree with you, Rocky. I think that those multi stripes in the middle are just kind of like eh. But the problem with it is really once you pleat it up, it just becomes
it depends on how it's. Bleh. But it depends on how it's pleated as well. If it is the whites, if we're pleating to the white stripe, on every single pleat you have a chunk of white stripes, it's gonna look a dog's dinner on the back of the kilt. It's gonna look too busy. It's going to be too much going on across the entire back of the kilt. Your eye has no place to rest. If you pleat it to the set, it could look okay. If you pleat it to one of the other white stripe, or one of the two in the blue section, if you pleat it to that white stripe, you'd have to either pleat it to both, so technically you're pleating it to the blue line in the middle, or you try to cheat it so it might be off-center depending on the width of that section so that you're just getting a white stripe down the center of every pleat. That could be difficult. It can be okay. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think it would ever be horrible. I don't think it would be great. That tartan itself, right there, is part of the impetus of why I designed the American Heritage Tartan. Because when I, back in 2004, 5, whatever it was, I wanted an American tartan, and that was one of the two that I had seen, and I wasn't real pleased with any of them, or with either of them. They were very much on the nose, red, white, and blue, rah, rah, America. And I wanted something with a little more depth, a little more black, a little darker. So that's why I did the American Heritage Tartan. That one, the Bicentennial or the America Tartan, I think it's called, they're both fine, but they're very, very bright red, white, and blue. So.
Yeah, I think slightly darker tones can make something a little more elegant. I think the biggest thing you want in a nicely designed tartan is enough negative space. So like you said a minute ago, so your eye can rest. So it's not just like a test pattern. That's the problem. I think some tartans are just a little bit too much. They're just a little over-designed. Every once in a while you can lean into that and come up with something that's amazing. But more often than not, it's just like, it's the one that is like, everybody's like, whoa, boy, oh yeah, I see that one coming. So having some negative space, where you don't have the maximum thread count, and of stacked up colors, makes for a nicer, more elegant tartan, I would say. I want to hear what Mac thinks about this too. I know he's going to have some thoughts.
Hi, how you doing?
Howdy.
Lovely. How are you, Mr. Mac?
Oh, watching the comments come in.
Uh-oh.
Everyone's saying how busy that one was, and that they need their eyes checked now.
Well, in fairness, it's actually not that busy. There's a section of it that's busy. The rest of it's kind of plain.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, is it's not balanced. That's what I was about to bring up with Erik, is when I design a tartan, I try to design something that is a visual interest at both of the pivots, meaning where the tartan reverses and it goes back on itself. With visual interest throughout, you have a spot where your eye can rest and there's a nice field of a single color, but it's not too boring, i.e. Rob Roy McGregor or Wallace or something like that. No offense, Wallace. Or it's not too crazy busy the entire time across like Ogilvy.
Right.
Mac? Yep.
American Heritage, I think out of all the rah America ones, American Heritage is probably the one that everyone comes back to more than anything else. It's
right over Erik's head. Yes.
Wait, I like that. I just want to do that again. It's like, there we go. Oh, now I can take a nap. That's perfect. Okay.
But I've dubbed that one our flagship tartan for years now. It's just, and even the comments on here are everyone's saying how much they love it. But they're also asking, what are we gonna do for the 250?
Not sure yet. We kind of been toying around with that. Do we want to do something? Do we want to do a tartan for the 250th anniversary? Not sure. Watch this space. But the one thing, tartan design to me comes down to interest and balance. It can't be too crazy, can't be too simple, can't be too unbalanced. It needs a good balance of everything, of a bold stripe and contrast, as well as a place for your eye to rest. Alternatively, something that's kind of subtle changes. It goes from tartan to tartan. The beauty of Isle of Skye, for instance, it's not only in the purple, but the way the purple and the brown play off each other, and color-wise, intensity-wise, the purple and the brown are kind of about a similar intensity, and they kind of play into each other. It's purple, brown, purple, brown, purple, brown, and it goes back and forth. It's kind of a gradient effect into a solid color or into a darker color. So it plays with the subtlety there versus a higher contrast. So there's some tartans that are high contrast that are beautiful. There's other tartans that are very subtle in their differences that are beautiful. It depends on what you're looking for and what the individual tartan kind of does to you. A Ford F-150 and a Lamborghini can both be beautiful vehicles. Very, very different, but beautiful vehicles in their own right for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking, I got, Isle of Skye right here over my shoulder, and even from this distance, you can see what I think you're talking about there, Rocky, with that salty. And another one that's a really good example is right up here is Holyrood, which has that nice gradient. It just kind of, the colors kind of meld into each other in a nice, soothing kind of a way, and it makes it very elegant. I think the opposite end of the spectrum for me is when somebody, especially somebody who's not familiar with tartan as an art form, is brought in to design a tartan, and they want something bold and exciting for a special occasion, and something that's going to make a modern statement. And there's nothing wrong with doing a modern statement. Don't get me wrong. There's some really awesome tartans out there that are brand new, like Earthrise. But my favorite horrible tartan is the old Commonwealth Games tartan, which was this orange and teal and pink thing. Is just god awful, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. It got universally panned by everybody in Scotland. They hated this thing.
Yep.
Because the design, they brought in a fashion designer to do it, and this person brought in a perspective from modern fashion, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but you just tried too hard, and it resulted in something that looks more like a traffic signal, or a pixel error on my monitor than a tartan. So
now, one thing that I personally like in tartan designs, which not a lot of people pick up on, is 2 shades of the same color.
Okay.
Holyrood's a good example. It has navy blue and a lighter blue. The tartan we did for Dropkick Murphys used a bottle green and an ancient green. Our Irish Heritage tartan uses the same bottle green and ancient green. Using 2 variations of the same color adds a depth, adds an interest to it, and especially when they're complementary colors, it really just kind of it adds something to the tartan. I don't know. It's one of those things where I noticed suddenly, like, that's why I like this. There's 2 colors of 2 versions of the same color in here. So there's a lot of different ways to make a tartan interesting, cool, whether it's contrast, bold, whatever. There's a few different ways to skin a cat, but you can end up with different tartans. You just have to take a different, course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed. Yep. All right, who was that? You or Mac?
That was me.
Okay. Mr. Mac.
All right. So we have Irene asking, what kind of kilt do you recommend for women? And what's the difference in occasion for a long or short / mini kilt length?
women can wear what they want to wear. There's a lot more latitude in women's wear than there is in men's wear. So if you are want to be flirtatious, so to speak, you can wear a mini kilt, above the knee and show a little bit of leg. If you want to be a little, you want to have something flirty but a little bit more reserved, you can wear something closer to a man's kilt where it's almost to the knee. If you want something a little bit more reserved, a little bit more conservative, you can wear a kilted skirt, which is like mid-calf, or a little bit longer, a hostess skirt, which is more like ankle length pleated skirt, flat apron in the front, but pleated across the back. The event itself would dictate what kind of skirt you would wear. So if it's outdoor festival in summer, it's going to be a little bit warmer. A mini kilt or slightly longer, just above the knee kilt might be a better choice. If you are indoor cocktail party, maybe a kilted skirt or a hostess skirt would be a better choice for you in that instance.
Yeah. I'd probably use slightly different terminology. I would say basically shorter is cuter. Shorter, you're getting more of the youth vibe. You're getting more of a party sense. You're getting more of the, it's more of an anime girl kind of a look. It's basically just the I'm out for fun kind of like, it implies speed. It implies energy. The longer the skirt gets, the more elegant it's going to be. So if you're trying to decide on what you want and it's your first time purchase, then split the difference. Go with either the at the knee or maybe a little below the knee, something that you can imagine doing like a retro look in a sense. Imagine you're doing the vintage look. Okay, that can be very flexible. It also is good for fall and winter. Pairs well with sweaters and stuff, cardigans, just kind of gives you a nice cozy vibe. Bernadette Benner is a good example. If anybody follows her, she's a fashion historian, and she did a video showing some of her favorite outfits, which are retro and vintage. And she has a tartan skirt that she got in Edinburgh as one of her main things she wears almost every day in the fall and winter. And it's basically mid-calf, a bit below the knee look. Basically, you got to look at what the rest of your wardrobe is and what your personal style is. I would not do anything too short or too long because you'll get less use out of it. We've seen a very strong trend lately for women opting for a man-style kilt, like the whole thing. Like just they order like a 5-yard kilt from us because they want that apron, they want that depth of pleat, they want that structured look. That's become a lot more fashionable lately. It's certainly a durable choice. So yeah, that's basically, in terms of what I'd recommend, I'd basically, think about your age and how you want to present yourself. Think about whether you want to look young and energetic or retro and cottage core kind of look, or if you want to go elegant because you're only using this twice a year to go to a fancy dinner. Context is king. We can even put the graphic up.
I like your comparison to energy. I think that's pretty on the money. There's because it's a mini kilt or above the knee doesn't mean it has to be a younger person's game. There are plenty of grandmas at Celtic Classic who we know who are in their 60s, 70s, who are high energy individuals who will wear something above the knee.
Style is more important than fashion. So if you know what your personal style is, you'll know what's the right length of kilt to get.
Wise words from you, Mr. Erik.
Yes, I'm very wise in trivial things like clothing. I'm very wise.
No, I like it. You're right. Everybody has their own style. Even in Highland wear, when there's rules and rules, but conventions set up and that kind of thing, you have your own style within it, whether you're man or woman. So you're right. The style, your personal style, has to bleed into what you're doing, and then you deal with the conventions that you're given. I agree.
Yep.
Well said. Mr. Erik, next one, pretty please.
My turn. Okay. All right. Okay. I think this one's probably going to be for me. Thorsten Black said, my clan is a sept of another. Is it possible in modern times to reclaim independence and no longer be a sept of another clan? Okay, so
Dun, dun, dun.
first question is what?
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun! Rebellion. No. My first question would be why? Why do you want to do it? It's the whole point. The whole thing about septs is they developed as a natural outgrowth of clans and their influence in a given locality originally. You would be a family of people who lived in the territory or near the territory of a clan and said, you know what? I like these guys. Or you know what? Hey, they've got lots of weapons and we don't. Or you know what? We could make a nice alliance. They've got some grazing land and we've got some water. Let's join up. And you would basically offer loyalty and an alliance to that clan. And basically it's a numbers game. If you're a little smaller, a little weaker in some aspect, then you become a sept. Sept is probably derived from the Latin term septum or septum, like a no septum, meaning a divided section, a divided area. It may also be related to the word sect, but nobody's completely sure. So there are practical reasons why people got into it. And then in the 19th century, when people outside of Scotland or on the lowlands really wanted to get into their heritage, said, well, I want to be a Highlander too. I want to be in a clan. So some people, out of the goodness of their hearts, and some people out of an attempt to make money and just sell the sizzle, started going around and saying, okay, well, you know what? This, all these names are actually septs of this clan. So guess what? You're in the club. You can buy this tartan. So it went hand in hand with things like the Sobieski Stewarts and marketing tartan to people who didn't necessarily know where tartan came from. Is the same kind of shtick. Sometimes septs are a little bit arbitrary. They're a little bit almost artificial. I mean, you'll have like the name Miller. I think it's just a generic name, and it is technically a sept. But that name did not have an association with a clan or anything traditionally. Miller is a generic surname, and like most surnames, it came into use in the 16th and 17th centuries. So you went from being John the Miller to John Miller around that time. And there's not one origin for the name Miller. It popped up all over the place. So that's part of the history. It's complicated, but that's part of how it developed. I don't know, and maybe somebody out there can correct me, I don't know of too many instances where a sept has broken off and become an independent clan. It probably happened at some point, but it's not really a big deal to do. It's like, why does it matter, would be my question. If for some reason like the clan did something horribly offensive, maybe you'd want to break off. But in the modern context, I don't see the point of doing it.
I understand the desire to want to do it, to kind of stand as an individual or plant your own flag. In that case, what I would suggest would be design your own tartan for your name. So my stock example is the family name Reed, R-A-I-D, is a sept of Robertson. If my last name is Reed and I really, really hate Robertson tartans, or my neighbor was a Robertson and he was just a bastard and I didn't like the guy, so I didn't wear the Robertson tartan, then fine, design a Reed tartan and get it registered. It may not be registered for everyone of the name Reed, or it may be a personal tartan to you, or whatever, but you can design your own thing so that you can differentiate yourself from others, and kind of start your own thing. Or, your sons, your daughters can wear the Reed tartan that you designed. You can start talking to other people of the last name Reed and say, hey, I designed a tartan just for us if you want it. And kind of go off on your own way. You'll still be a sept of Robertson, but you can have a symbol of your own name, not just Robertson. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it comes down to whether you're looking at it as just an aesthetic thing, or as an identity thing, or as a cultural thing. If you were to choose to break off and form a group of people who, there's apparently a lot of septs of Clan Gun, for instance. And if you decide that, we are going to have our own tartan and we're going to go, have our own badge and all this kind of stuff, you're not going to be recognized by Lord Lion as that specifically. I mean, I don't know what circumstances would cause that authority to say, oh, sure, okay, we'll just call you a clan from now on. Do you have a reason why you want to be differentiated and separated from the history of that clan? If you view it as kind of artificial, like it was one of these cases where the sept was created, adopted, recognized in like the late 19th century, and so you feel kind of like it was like it's a thing, but it doesn't feel personal to me. It doesn't feel like legit history, like it doesn't go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Then okay, that's a motivation. But do you want to separate your heritage that much from whatever stories there are, whatever lineage there is, whatever the word that's coming to mind is adventures, which isn't really right. But do you want to be separated from all that culture that's associated with that clan? That's the thing you want to consider, is like, why? What's the motivation? If it's purely an aesthetic thing, then absolutely. I mean, people will come up with, tartans and pseudo heraldry, maybe not actual heraldry, because again, you're not going to get registered with the authorities in Britain very easily, if at all. But they'll come up with this stuff as an identifier. I mean, we have modern groups that do this all the time. Clan McEvil, the Renfair folks. Well, I know it kind of gives us a laugh, but it's a good example of somebody who they felt strongly, they felt they were a group, they felt they were a family, a clan, if you will, of their own. So they came up with a tartan, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But if you tried to get a letter campaign going to the Scottish government and to the chief of Clan Gun and say, we don't want to be part of your clan anymore, why? What kind of reception do you expect?
Like us?
Yeah, I don't get it. So I would say, aesthetically, there's nothing wrong with doing it. Culturally, I would think long and hard before I'd try to be that guy who sounds that battle cry. I would do a lot of research into the clan and the history and my family history, and want to know what my motivation was for even considering the idea.
Yeah, I'd say if there's no strong reason why, like the head of this clan was a white supremacist, and you want to absolutely differentiate yourself from them, fine. But outside of that, you're trying to have a divergence in history for no reason other than I want to. So there's traditions, there's a history there already. Why diverge? Why go in a different path? So if it's just because you want something visual, i.e. a tartan or something like that, I get the rationale why you might want to. But outside of hard reasons why, I just kind of let it go and say it is what it is. I'm not trying to diss the asker of the question at all. Yeah. But I think for a lot of people, this would come down to an ego thing where they want to be extra special for some reason. It runs against the tide of history. It was more common for clans to band together. That is the Clan Chattan story in a nutshell. You're talking about groups of people who worked together because of harsh circumstances. That's why the clan system developed in the first place. So it's kind of backwards from how things have happened over the past 500 or more years. Yeah. Very good, Mr. Mack. We'll have you ask our last question, then I'll do the question of the day.
All right. So this is a little bit of an interesting one. How old were you when you first started wearing a kilt? The gentleman or the young man who posted did say he was 14. And also there was another question that came in. I want to pair with it is, where is the best place for a teenager to start wearing a kilt?
Sure.
Those are really good questions.
Yeah. First time I wore a kilt was in my mid-20s. And it was, I went through my mid-20s crisis, so to speak. And I just wanted to wear a kilt. All of the different angles that people come to wearing a kilt from, all kind of summed up in one. It was a symbol of rebellion, symbol of heritage, symbol of pride, symbol of fun, symbol of everything. So I waited till my mid-20s, and I wish I would have done it sooner, because I would have had a lot more girlfriends earlier in my life. But yeah, it's Erik. When did you start wearing kilts?
Later than you. I think I was probably maybe early 30s. And again, my story is slightly different. I started with utility kilts. I didn't get into the heritage angle of things until later, because I got into kilts basically as an expression of kind of like a modern primitive kind of a thing. I wanted something that felt more natural, spoke to warrior spirit, stuff like that. And I learned about utility kilts, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome, you know. So I went that direction first, partially influenced by, you know, music scene and everything. And then I realized, you know what, this is cool, but it's really modern, and it doesn't have a history behind it the same way traditional stuff does. And then I, you know, got more into this stuff.
You're in a historian came out.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also there's a difference in my mind between the modern expression of a thing and its roots. Like I was recently shopping. This is a tangent. I was shopping for a new camp knife, and I was really torn between getting something from Condor, which is, for those who are into knives, is like very traditional style, high carbon blade with walnut handles and stuff like that, or something high tech, you know, which has the powder coating so it doesn't rust, and, you know, it's still carbon steel, but it's got the composite handle and blah 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 blah. And it's like, which one has more soul? You know, which one is practical enough and which one has more soul? And my brain always goes in those directions, trying to balance that out, practical versus soul. So for kilts, soul won out. You know, I'll still use a utility kilt for hiking or working and stuff like that. But when I want to feel myself, then it's the traditional kilt I bring out. So yeah, but I wasn't in it as long as you have been. And then I wound up working here and just like, off the cliff, you know.
It's all downhill from there.
Yeah, pretty much drinking the Kool-Aid. So yeah, it's basically so it wasn't the all factors like your story. It was more just it was basically that is I wanted to try and get something that was a mix of kind of primal, natural, and also practical, you know. So yeah.
Mac, what was the other half of your question?
So what was the other
Mac,
half
what
of
was
the question?
Other half?
Where's a good place for someone to start wearing their kilt as a teenager?
Right. I would say in the best place to wear your kilt for the first time. Depends on who you are, your personality, how much reinforcement you need versus how much of a rebel you want to be, and that kind of thing. If you're doing it for... The first place I wore mine was to the gym on a bet. I bought it and I couldn't figure out, like, where am I going to wear this thing? And my big strapping, gym rat buddy said, "Oh, you're going to wear it to the gym. I'm going to bet you $50 you won't." And I was like, okay, done. So I won $50. But and that was, kind of baptism by fire. Other people don't have that same chutzpah to be able to, jump in with both feet and really do that kind of thing, and they want to just kind of ease into it. In that instance, I'd say Highland Games, Celtic Festival, somewhere where you're going to be among other people wearing a kilt is an easier transition into wearing it in public versus somewhere where you're going to be the only one and stick out like a sore thumb on purpose. So, Erik, I know you wore yours to a grocery store or something for the first time?
Yeah, the first time I wore a kilt was actually was a shopping trip with my wife and my infant daughter, and we happened to be going out to a Mennonite bulk food store that we go to. So I'm there in a kilt with all these Mennonite and Amish people, like, does not compute. So that was funny, but for me that was
nice
nice
English.
Kind of, yeah, nice skirt, English. But it was a nice kind of a dipping my toe into the pool, and I had it was a low key environment, which helped me.
It's not like they're going to take pictures of you with the cell phone.
Well, no, it's not like Well, it's not like I was going out to a bar in Center City or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would say, I think in that age bracket, I'd say, having someplace you can go with a couple of friends is ideal. It could be anywhere. But I would say anything that you can go to with some friends, so you feel like you've got a support group there. It really is context dependent. I don't know what level of family support you have. I don't know if there's any family acknowledgement of heritage or tradition that's in play, or if this is like you're the first person in your family to get into this, and therefore this is really outside the norm for the people you live with. that can make a huge difference. It's a lot easier for kids who've been brought up with, say, a bagpiping family, or people are into their clan stuff or something like that. But if you're doing it and you're the only one doing it, then I'd say find your posse, showing my age. Get the fam together so you have friends wherever you go, and keep it relatively simple at first. Practice wearing the kilt at home to build confidence also, so you don't feel like you're moving weird, you're not used to how it looks, you're not used to how it feels. Make it second nature to you before you even leave the house. That can help a lot. And yeah, I'd say concerts are good, festivals are good, cons are good if you're into con culture at all. Kilts are very common at cons. Ren Fair, of course. Anything where something more costumey is kind of almost expected, because it's got that special vibe to it, But choose what's easy. Don't overthink it too much, but those would be my choices.
I would almost say that your teens and 20s, where you're more concerned about fitting in, you're more concerned about appearance, are a more difficult time potentially to start wearing a kilt than real early or later when you really care less. You've come into your own more.
I think they're in that donut hole where they care and they want to do this, but they're not driving age yet.
Yeah.
So that's another factor. If you're 14 or something, if you haven't got a license yet, then your transportation options are limited. I don't necessarily recommend hopping on the BMX bike in the kilt, to go down to the sandlot. But that's why I say I think a group of friends can help a lot. It can be as simple as going out to a restaurant. Something where you feel like if you want to stand out, you can, but if you need to fade into the woodwork, you can do that too. So you have the option. And having a group of friends with you when you do that makes that a lot easier. So, especially if you have a friend who can drive.
Go somewhere where there would be more adults, or there would be less critical. Meaning, like if you're using your example of 14, 15-year-old, if you wore that to high school, they're going to be more critical than if you went to the mall around adults. They're going to be less apt to be jerks about it, or make kind of disparaging comments. You'll probably get more positive reinforcement than you would negative reinforcement.
Yeah, you'll also get the, do you play bagpipes? You're
where
gonna
are
get
your
that
bagpipes, sonny? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Wonderful, wonderful show filled with fun little glitches. All right. Question of the day. What are you out there in the YouTubes? What are you guys doing for Burns Night? With Corona, with everyone separate, what are you doing? How are you going to make Burns Night your own? How are you going to celebrate? Are you going to celebrate? You're going to drink scotch in your apartment by yourself? You're going to get a haggis? You're going to do an online thing, read Burns poems? What are you going to do? Tell us in the comments. We would love to hear it from you. That being said, until next time, boys and girls, Slanjava.
Slanjava.
No? I can't hear Erik. I don't know if he's talking at all. Are you actually doing that, Erik, or do you have no audio? Nice. This is awesome.